सब्सक्राइब करें एज ऑफ यूथ चैनल को और बेल आइकन दबाएं लेटेस्ट वीडियोस सबसे पहले देखने के लिए।
I want to thank the organizers for inviting me over this extraordinary convention. And next thing to say is that Kunal has, before me he came in the inaugural session and he has thrown some light on what's happening in Kashmir, and I will be taking it furthermore. For me, standing in front of this august gathering is an opportunity to shed light on the threats and challenges faced by the Kashmiri journalists since last 3 decades. The bitter fact about Kashmir media is that sometimes a bullet chooses our headline, a pellet becomes our intro, a militant decides the body of our piece, or the NIA teaches us the fundamentals of journalism. Well, sadly, that is our story. In today's day and age, working for a journalist, even in normal society, is not easy. But in a conflict zone, a journalist often finds himself caught between a rock and hard place. A journalist is accused of taking sides by the state as well as non-state actors. In Kashmir Valley, what journalists experiences in early years of militancy when they were caught between brutal state and equally brutal non-state actors is something beyond words can explain. The horrors of violence committed against working journalists are well documented. On 14 June this year, Shujat Bukhari was assassinated just outside his newspaper office. Bukhari was not the first victim of violence, and sadly he will not be the last one. Muhammad Shaban Vakil, editor Urdu daily Al Safa, was first victim believed to be gunned down by the militants in his office in early years of insurgency. Parvaz Muhammad Sultan, another journalist, was shot dead on his work table in 2003 for reporting on internal feud of a militant group. Now another story, side of the story. On 7th September 1995, Yusuf Jamil, former BBC correspondent in Kashmir, survived a parcel bomb explosion in his Srinagar office. This was after his colleague Mushtaq Ali opened the package addressed to Jamil. Mushtaq, who was working as a journalist for AFP, was seriously injured in this parcel bomb attack and he died 5 days later. According to Jamil, it was a letter bomb addressed to him. Fortunately, he survived. And unfortunately, Ali had to pay a heavy price for opening that parcel. According to Yusuf Jamil, when threats to shut him up had failed, the army tried to kill him through notorious renegade commander Kuka Parikh. Same happened with Altaf Hussain, who succeeded Jamil to work for BBC. An army officer accompanied by a contingent once raided his residence in Srinagar Press Enclave in the middle of night. Altaf jumped over the wall and managed to hide himself behind a heap of timber. About this incident, Shujat Bukhari once told me that from here Altaf called him on phone and told him about what he was going through. Shujat, as witty as he always was, except the time he fell victim to the assassin's bullets, called the top brass of army in Badami Bagh cantonment and warned them about the serious consequences if Altaf was harmed. The trick worked. The party present at his house did immediately withdraw from the spot. Had there been no timely interference from Shujat Bukhari, I would be sadly sharing another sad story here. Before coming over to Delhi, I met Yusuf Jamil. He alleged that in most of the cases, investigating agencies know very well who are behind such attacks. But so far, nobody has been laid a hand upon for reasons which I think need not to be explained here. When the armed conflict in Valley erupted in 1989, Lassa Call. The then Doordarshan director was assassinated by militants. And similarly, senior editors, which include Bashir Manzar and Zafar Miraj, were kidnapped by Ikhwan, the most feared and dreaded government-sponsored of the insurgent group. Both survived miraculously. It's not unusual for us to face intimidation. Violence has become a part of our daily life. A journalist becomes vulnerable for simple reason that each stakeholder wants him or her to take their side. Everyone expects full coverage of their statements, and if they don't, it's easy to dub them as pro-militant or pro-government. It's indeed a catch-22 situation for us. Even a decade after militancy, the violence against journalists in Kashmir continues unabated. In 2002, suspected militants shot at journalist Zafar Iqbal, who then worked for Srinagar-based English Daily and now for NDTV 24/7 from a point-blank range at a newspaper office in Srinagar. He suffered multiple bullet injuries. No one believed that he would survive, but he did. It's no secret that journalists in Kashmir are sitting ducks for both the state, its various security agencies, and also for non-state actors. When perpetrators can't beat the media persons, they get angry in their frustration and then find them as soft targets. Unfortunately, scribes working in rescue zone are expected to please everyone, but one can't make everybody happy. That's a bit of it. Now, coming to Shujat Bukhari. Even in early 2000, there was an attempt on his life. A man accosted Shujat near the heart of Srinagar in the evening, waved a pistol at him and directed him to get in an auto rickshaw, where another man was already waiting. One of them then took aim at him and pulled the trigger, but the pistol failed to fire. They fled and he survived. He was not lucky second time around. I have the honor of working with Shujat for almost 2 to 3 years when both of us were associated with Deutsche Welle, the Voice of Germany, Urdu service. We, over the period, developed a very strong relationship between each other. Those who know him know that Shujat was a lovely and a wonderful person, ready to help anybody who asked for it. I remember in April 2017 when both of us were invited by Kashmiri expatriates to UAE or Kashmir Super League, Cricket Super League, organized by the diaspora. He seemed very happy, and the kid living inside him came out to the fullest to entertain all. That was the last time I saw him with his family. And the second time I saw was his dead body lying on a cot in his father's North Kashmir house in the courtyard. Towards the last months of his life, he seemed to be very tense. Perhaps he knew what was cooking against him, particularly after he attended the Dubai conference over Kashmir, where Mr. Dulat and others were present. He had friends and foes across the divide. While his friends on this side exposed him for his concern for peace and his efforts for peace, his enemies labeled him a militant sympathizer and opened a front against him. Across the border, bloggers opened yet another front against him, declaring him an agent of India and Indian agencies. On 23rd May this year, he called me in the middle of night to express his anguish over the developments and lack of support from the fellow community. He seemed to be very, very, very upset and stressed. He said that he had done nothing which would hammer his conscience as a journalist. I tried to console him, saying that he should not take things so seriously if he has nothing to worry about, if he has not done something wrong. To this, his reply was something which is haunting me even today. He said, and I quote, Jalil, I too am a human being and therefore have a fatigue limit to bear the consequences of baseless allegations and unjustified criticism. Unquote. In Shujat's case, what was less surprising and more revealing was the threatening of the sacked BJP minister in Mehbooba Mufti's cabinet, Chaudhry Lal Singh, in which he warned Kashmiri journalists, it's on record, to draw a line for themselves or else meet the fate of Shujat Bukhari. Shujat is no more with us. Different people come up with different perceptions and different theories about the people responsible for his assassination. But surprising is that more than 3 months have passed since he was murdered and investigative agencies have failed to move even a centimeter towards cracking the case. The same agencies that in other type of cases, militancy related or criminal, are smart enough to crack them in few hours. I want to share a personal experience about this labeling thing and what's happening in Kashmir and how media from Delhi treats Kashmiri journalists. That you all must be knowing that we have a parachute type of journalism in situations. It was August 2000, 1st of August 2000, Hizbul Mujahideen, the local outfit, declared a unilateral ceasefire. On 5th of August, since the talks between the Home Ministry officials and Hizbul Mujahideen, representatives was going in Kashmir Circuit House, and all the television channels, all the media, people from all over the world landed in Kashmir. You would see that every second person was a journalist. On 5th of August, since they were not hiding their faces and we could recognize them, on 5th of August I was riding a scooter. I was working those days with All India Radio Current Affairs Service. I could spot some people in a Maruti Zen car. I stopped while they were purchasing something from a shop. I stopped my scooter on the side and went to them and introduced myself as a journalist and told them that my listing is 40 lakh people in the evening. And there is a confusion among the people that why this ceasefire, unilateral, after 11 years of, 11 years of militancy and bloodshed. People want to know what's this. Some people normally allege that it was a sellout. They got furious over it, asked me to put my scooter on the side. I was able to, I managed my tape recorder to get it out, and they packed me in the car and took me along with blindfold. Second thing was when my fold was opened, I saw a lot of people, and I think a dozen of people, all the militants, top brass, chief commander of Hizbul Mujahideen, Majid Dar was there, and their spokesperson, Commander Masood, who was the operational commander, and he was the chief deputy chief commander and chief spokesperson of the organization, who was talking with the Indian officials. So I said that I am working with Sheher Bean, a very popular program still on Radio Kashmir, which has a large listening. I said I am working with them. There is a perception that you people have come to, something that have, given you the feeling to declare the ceasefire. Either it's a fatigue is working on you, or there is something else. Very, seriously said that we are not supposed to talk to journalists. Syed Salahuddin, UJC chief, has put a, specific instruction that we will not be talking to journalists. I put my camera aside, my tape recorder aside, and I asked, I am not a journalist now, I am a common Kashmiri. We are confused. Why you dragged us into this if at the end of the day you had to declare a ceasefire? I want questions to my answer, off the record. Now this man who had left to join the militancy when his daughter was only 6 years old. He said there are multiple reasons. One is that I left home when my daughter was 6 years old. Today she is 16, 17 years old. If I have to meet my daughter, I have to employ a middleman who will tell me that she is your daughter and tell her that she is your father. He is your father. Second thing, that boy is only 18 years old. We don't get these cadres now. Nobody is joining militancy. And third thing is that we are losing a generation. Just imagine he is at the age of 20 or 21, he will marry. Then he will have 4 kids. Then after 20 years more, those 4 kids will have 16 kids. And they will multiply after 100, say 50 years or 75 years, we will be losing a whole bunch of generation. So that is also a reason, because we are indigenous, we have to think about our people. And third thing, he told that the state is labeling us as the part of pan-Islamic terrorism, which we are not. So this was informal conversation with him. This was just to, get him on record. So I told him that there must be some level, because all the Indian channels and all the national channels, Doordarshan is covering your meetings with the Home Secretariat. So there should be some limit till where you can talk to me. He said, what you have to ask? I said, I have only 4 questions. First was, what were the motives behind the declaration of ceasefire? Second was, what will be the role of Hurriyat Conference if it carries forward? Third is, what will be your role? And fourth was, how would you impress upon those people who have come from other countries like Afghanistan and Sudan, who are fighting along your side, and their ideology is altogether different? How would you impress upon them? These were the 4 questions. I don't want to, reveal what was his reply. And I was working for Radio Kashmir, and I was knowing that radio will not do it. It's a militant's voice. What happened? Zafar Miraj, the editor of Kashmir Monitor, was celebrating 25th anniversary of his paper. I knew the fact that all the journalists were in the function in Broadway Hotel. I ran along with, I was very junior those days, I ran along with this tape recorder. I asked the Greater Kashmir person, he said, no, you will have to come through some agency. I said, okay. But fortunately, I went to this Broadway Hotel and Mr. Ali Muhammad, PTI correspondent, chief correspondent in Kashmir was there. I said, सर मैंने ये किया है, क्या किया है? मैंने इंटरव्यू किया, कैसे? मैं कहा हो गया, क्या बोल रहे हो? मैं कहा सुनो, एक बस के पीछे ले गया, उन्होंने सुना, वो बहुत तेज़ थे शॉर्ट हैंड में. Within the next 15 minutes I was famous world over, because nobody had nothing in hand. A very senior journalist from a very prominent channel in Delhi landed in my house in the evening. And requested that she would listen to it. I said, no, my day is over, you can come down to my office. I was those days, publishing a English magazine that was first of its kind, which lasted for only 8 issues because of the ads and other things in Kashmir. So she came to my office in the morning, and on 5th of August, NDTV was running the audio interview of Hizbul Mujahideen with my wife. Prior to that, when I went along with the tape to All India Radio, the then director of All India Radio Srinagar, Mr. Fayyaz Shahryar, he told the editors that how could we do a militant's interview on our channel. The editor was smart enough and he said that if our sister organization Doordarshan is broadcasting special telecast bulletins over it, why can't we do? You talk to the director. So a call was made to the DG, Prasar Bharati, and he said, the director said, that DG said that unless and until national interests are not hurt, you can go up to any extent. And one bite from that was played on 5th of August on Radio Kashmir, official organ of Government of India. Now coming to other part, which I was revealing, that a journalist came to my house and I told her that you must come in the morning. She came to my office, Murali was the cameraman, and she heard the interview. Then she asked that, can I have it? I said, yes, you can have it. I didn't demand any money for my exclusive interview. I gave it to her. My office equipment was used to transfer it into the camera and then to the computer and then to mail it down to Delhi. And in the next bulletin, it was carried out by NDTV. Up till 8th of August. In between, the journalist was telling me, can you arrange a meeting with Hizbul Mujahideen chief? I said, no, I don't know. I was blindfolded and they took me. I don't know who they were. I'm not a conduit. This was a lucky chance for me that when press from whole world was in Kashmir and I was the only journalist to have this interview. When nobody was having nothing. So this was carried up to 8th of August. 8th of August, Hizbul Mujahideen withdrew the ceasefire offer. And on 10th of August, unfortunately, I want to reveal the name of another fallen journalist, that is Pradeep Bhatia, who was then working for Hindustan Times. On 10th of August, Hizbul Mujahideen detonated a deadly bomb near Lal Chowk, in which 7 police personnel, along with Pradeep Bhatia, died. We Kashmiri journalists gave him a befitting farewell. It continued on 10th of August. I came up with those things which were off the record, and I published it in the local daily, which I am revealing here also. And then I had to come over to Delhi. Amitabh Mattu was a panelist, our panelist. I used to frequently call him and has his interview, has his opinion on different kind of issues. I called him. He was vice chairperson, School of International Studies in JNU. I called him. He said, Jalil, come out. Why don't you come out? You have done school. I want to meet you. I went there, and he asked me about the details, how was it and how I could manage it and all the things. And then he said, incidentally, Rajdeep sir, that's why at the same moment I was sitting in his office. And Mr. Vajpayee was going on his first visit to the United States. I hope I'm not boring you. Mr. Vajpayee was going on his first visit to United States, and I think he was asking Amitabh Mattu about the questions he will pose over there. And Amitabh Mattu said that nuclear non-proliferation is the hot issue. You must put questions on that. You must deal with that. And then he abruptly said, do you have anybody in Srinagar? I don't know, but I can make out he must have said no. Then he said, I know a very good journalist. Then he said, he's right in front of me. After that, he hung the phone. Amitabh told me you should go to NDTV office in Archana Cinema in Greater Kailash and meet Rajdeep tomorrow along with your CV. Next day, I did go there. I met him, had a chat with him. He took my CV. And after that, I started talking to Rajdeep more, because Rajdeep was quite receptive and he was not asking certain favors which I couldn't do. Then, one fine evening, Rajdeep calls me and says that I have talked to Pranay and Radhika, who will be taking you as a local correspondent in Srinagar, which we have not over there. Those days, there was a monopoly of a journalist over in Kashmir, the same journalist. Next day, and he's asking me that you have to come over to learn how to do phonos and other things, and you'll have to stay in Delhi for at least a month. I said, okay, that's no problem, but I will have to settle some issues at home, and after that, I'll be coming, and it will take me only 2 or 3 days. Next day, he calls me again and says, Jalil, I am sorry. We will not be taking you because somebody within the organization has given to understand to Pranay and Radhika that you have links with militants. So this is the kind of labeling we go through. Moving ahead. Now let us come to the challenges faced by the media in Kashmir. The common observation is that there are brazen attempts made by the government and its agency to intimidate journalists and gag the media in Kashmir by curtailing government advertisements, by banning the internet, and also by summoning journalists for questioning to local police stations or New Delhi by NIA. There are attempts to control narratives both in the traditional media and on social media. Not so long ago, there were official curbs placed on the entry of foreign journalists in Jammu and Kashmir with the aim to contain the Kashmir story. The Union Ministry of External Affairs, through a letter to foreign media bureaus on May 22nd, issued these curbs. There is another tool to scuttle flow of news from the valley, which is banning of the internet services. There was a pattern observed in such banning during 2008, 2009, 10 and 16 when Kashmir was on fire. At least the internet services were shut or completely suspended 62 times since 2012. That is according to Delhi-based non-profit organization Software Freedom Law Center. When curtailment of advertisements fails to yield desired results, publication of newspapers is banned until they fall in the line. English Daily Kashmir Reader is one such example, which was banned for its true and fairness reporting of the situation. Those working in the field are always exposed to the threat of falling prey to deliberate targeting while performing their professional duties, beat and roughed up at times. A freelance photojournalist, Zohaib Makbul, lost his left eye on September 4, 2016, when, according to him, he fell victim to targeted pellet gun injury fired by police on photojournalists while covering protests in the Ranawari area of downtown Srinagar. Zohaib narrates, and I quote, "Suddenly we saw a masked policeman pointing his pellet gun at us and moving towards us. He was 20 feet away from us. I took my press card, held aloof my camera and shouted, 'Press, press.' But the policeman did not listen to me and fired at us from a very close range, and he lost his left eye." Unquote. Another photojournalist, Kamran Yusuf, was arrested by NIA. He was charged for covering protests and not covering the developmental works of the government. Yet another working journalist, Asif Sultan, which Kunal mentioned, is presently languishing in jail for writing about Burhan Wani. The agony is that this debarring is happening in an era when Lawrence Wright does profile of Osama bin Laden and Hamid Mir does his interview. These figures are a reality. Good or bad, writers will write about them. The primary duty of a journalist is to report truth as they see it and not what government agencies or the rebels want them to write. But in Kashmir, unfortunately, adversaries want them to see through their prism only. Concluding, I would say that a bad precedence is being set by going after journalists, by intimidating and harassing them. Harassment of media by this or that side is definitely not good. And if continued and pursued in the same manner, it always has a tendency to backfire. Thank you very much.